A refrigerator in your truck? What?
That's right, folks. It's here. It's finally here.
It came! It finally came!
I saw this fridge first a few months ago online and immediately pre-ordered it. Here's the unboxing. What's in the box? So the first of all is the big giant fridge compartment. That's gonna open up here so you can see down inside. A really huge compartment. Get into this more later. Then you have this little power supply here, which is gonna go into the back of the fridge. Obviously the fridge itself is gonna plug into that. Then this is what's gonna actually plug into the outlet of the truck. Then you have these two little plastic pieces here. So in a minute, I'll take you here on the inside of the truck. So these little plastic pieces here are actually two pieces that are gonna clip together. So you'll see at some point, which is a good thing, the fridge is gigantic. It has a massive storage space. So what Test Studio did when they designed this, is they designed it looked like to be as big as possible that would fit in that little space. The only downside of that is we have to take apart a few things to be able to get this to slide in. I would rather take apart a few things and have the bigger cooler that'll probably never come out of my truck as long as I have it, than to get a smaller one and it just fit right in. As I showed you earlier, you have these two pieces which are going to slide together like this and basically just make one long piece. This is going to replace this piece here in the truck. So the cooler, of course, is going to sit all up in this area right here, but it's not just going to slide in here cleanly. So this little plastic piece here, which is one piece, is what we're going to take completely out, and we'll replace it with these two pieces here. Once the fridge is in, these are going to build back up kind of around it. This is going to allow for two things. One, it's going to fill this whole area and allow the maximum space for cooling. And two, it's going to allow you to slide this cooler into this space and then remake this plastic all said and done, which is going to allow it to not rock around at all. Okay. So I have to remove these, but as you can see, first things first, I need to get this floor mat out of here, because in order to remove this, it goes up in here into the dash a little bit. So I'm actually going to have to pull out this whole little piece of this dash right here, just enough to kind of swing it around to give me the space to actually pull this out. Now I have to get up behind here and pull this little kind of a felt thing. Now I'll show you underneath, there's actually a little open area from where the vent is to give you like cooling or heating, that I get my finger underneath and pull this down. There's actually going to be two little rivets. One of them's going to be back into here, one of them's going to be back into here. But before I do that, I'm going to remove this little side section here. So in the back corner here, it's actually fastened in, but I can get my fingers behind this little lip here. And actually, I've been behind this several times to hook up different things for light bars or running boards. By the way, future video on running boards, so subscribe. I'm going to pull this back so I can get my finger kind of in here. As I'm working my finger behind here, okay, this is just the carpet, and I actually get in this little hole to get the plastic, and I can pull out this whole plastic piece here. So this is the wire I hooked up my electric running boards with. I think this is the wire I hooked up like maybe a light bar. I think this is the C9 screen. A lot of things I hooked up. Subscribe to the channel because I'm always doing stupid stuff like this. I'm actually going to work back in here, pulling this down just a little bit more. So now I'm going to get my finger up in this little area. Again, this is where like the air conditioner come down. And as you can see here, I can pull this down just a little bit. I'm going to pull to where there's one rivet. I'm going to pull over here. There's the second rivet. Now there's little magnets that are going to hold this back into place up here. So I'm just going to pull this whole thing down just a little bit here. So I'm going to try to get this little corner piece up and around over here into this area so I can pull this out. So I just flexed this little under dash piece up over this little piece of plastic until it was up out of the way. So now I can get this out a little bit easier. This is forced with several clips. There's a couple down clips here. There's a few more down clips here, but I think I can get underneath here and actually pull this loose all the way down, and there you go. So this piece here that I just pulled out, I'm gonna go store this safely somewhere in the garage because I won't need this in my reinstall, and I won't need it because this is the piece that came with my little Test Studio fridge, and so this is again in two pieces. So now what we're gonna do is slide that fridge compartment into place. Then once it's into place, because this is two pieces, I can reassemble this back on. It's gonna look clean just like the other one, but it's also gonna hold that fridge in tight. I can put all of this back together now. So here we go. Just slide this kind of back around, back over this little part, slide this all back up in place. Again, some magnets are going to kind of clip that up into here. And then taking a look at this next piece over to its right. So this little nub here is going to slide into a hole, and then this little rivet here is going to slide into the hole next to it. So right here's the first rivet, and the second one is right there. And then you just fold this little flap back up into place. Again, there's, I think, 1 or maybe 2 clips pushes in. And once you have that clicked, I just kind of tuck this carpet back in all the way around. And as you can see, as good as new.
Okay, so with my cooler set up in the seat here, you can kind of see how this little slant on the front of the fridge is going to fit that little slant in the front of the car. So it's just going to slide into place. But before we do that, we have to put that power supply in first. And this is just going to go back into the place. Obviously, the plug there is going to be facing towards the center of the car because that's where the fridge is going to put into place. This has to go in first because, again, it won't fit if you put them together separately. This is just really geniusly designed to maximize the space, but you do have to put things in a certain order. So there's our empty space, there's our fridge, and you can kind of see here, there's the cutout in the back of the fridge where this little power supply is going to go. So again, this power supply, ridges on the bottom here. It's just going to kind of fit down into place and just slide all the way back. Then eventually this cord is going to come up this way. So as we slide this fridge back into place, this little plug here is going to plug into that power supply, and all this excess cord they're going to see here is also going to fit in the hollow of that little power supply, but I have to get it as close as I possibly can. Then I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to kind of, as I push the fridge in, kind of scrunch the cord in little by little. Okay, so there it is there, of course. Now again, this little upper of this has to fit over the guard of the seat. Now that inside of the seat is going to look just like this, and as you can see here from the ground level, that this little cutout here is going to fit perfectly over this, but of course this same bracket is over there on the other side. So what we're going to have to do is lift the fridge up ever so slightly to get above this, but not so high to where this little angle here doesn't fit under the angle of that little center console. There is a small lip over here. I still have to get over top of these brackets here, so I'm going to lift it up whatever that amount is. So that's probably about 3/4 of an inch high where it's going to all slide in. So here's the cord from the fridge. I'm going to push it in as I kind of feel for it with my hand, the plug on the power supply. I'm going to scrunch all this cord in little by little as I push in the fridge. Right, so now I'm going to slide it in. Again, keeping in mind, I'm going to try to keep this cord out of the way as long as I can, lifting up again that 1/2 of an inch. And while it is a little tricky, if you get it just exactly right, it doesn't rub anywhere. And just like that, we're in business. So back over here on the passenger side, you can see we just put it in. Let me show you that little plastic, how we're going to rebuild that little frame. So there's our fridge, and again, you can kind of see, still have to fill in those spots to make that look nice again.
So I missed sliding in this first little piece of trim that's up there in the top because it was really hard to hold the camera with one hand and install it with just my other hand. So it's snapped into place, but you can see here now I'm putting in the second. Again, it just clips down, those two little pieces mate together.
Okay, so now the only thing left is to plug it in. Now you do have a plug down inside the center console, and actually I put in this cool little dock here, so I actually do have plugs up top I could use, but you don't need to use those because you actually have plugs in the back seat.
So here in through the back door, you'll see there is our little plug right here, and here's your outlet just above.
But before you plug it in, the directions do say to give it 4 hours. So I'm going to wait until morning, which by the way, it's getting dark now anyway. So in the morning, I'm going to come out, plug it in. I'm going to give it a good test over the course of 24 hours. And by the time you see this, I'll be able to give you the full review of how good or how poorly this cooler does. I've got a good feeling about it.
The next day.
So here I am the next morning. So the first thing I did is I plugged this fridge in the back, and immediately it started to cool, which is good. I'm going to actually drive to work now, and I'm going to see how long it takes. So my trip to work is about 40 minutes, and so I'm going to see in that 40 minutes how much it cools. Now the box says it'll cool in 15 or 20 minutes, so I may pull over and stop if I feel like it hits set point, but I'm going to go ahead and head in. Before I do though, I'm going to just do a couple things that I actually noticed here in the bright daylight. So the first of which, there's actually a power and an up and a minus. You can affect the temperature setting on both sides of the cooler. So you can, as the driver, control it, or the passenger can actually control it. There's of course a power button. You hold it long enough and it comes on, you hold it longer, it goes off, and then there's the plus and minus to affect the temperature up and down. There's also what looks out to be a really cool little ledge on top of this. There's a little silicone mat, then a little bit of border all the way around. So this morning, like I said, a coffee cup there, and it held really nice. Kind of like little cool things I didn't really expect. It's really like a shelf you can put things on. I've lowered the cooler all the way down to its lowest set point, which is about 20 or 21 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll see how low it gets. So below that 21 degrees, there's a setting where you can put it on low, which basically just means the compressor is going to run nonstop and get it as cool as possible. So I haven't even made it all the way to work yet here, but my fridge reached set point, so I thought I'd pull over and do this video right now. So pulled over to the gas station to fill up. I set this at, I think it was around 22 degrees Celsius. And again, in a second, I'll show you how to change it to Fahrenheit. If you're in America, like me, Celsius doesn't mean anything. So it was at about 22. I think I set all the way down to -6. Well, I just heard a little beep and I looked down and I'd hit that set point. So to go from 22 degrees Celsius all the way down to -6 took about 20 minutes. Not too bad. And then even beyond that, it went from not only 22 degrees Celsius, which is about, what, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way down to -6, which is probably what, closer to maybe 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So even below freezing, it went even lower beyond that because I had it in that low setting. Now it's all the way down to about -9 or 10 degrees here. Let's take a look.
Just for the sake of the video, we're -8, -7 degrees right now.
So that -7 degrees is really about what, 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's getting even colder. So I'm gonna keep going to work that next 20 minutes and I'll update you on how cold it actually gets. And then I'll show you how to change this from the Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, so at work, and I'll be honest with you, I just made the mistake of opening my cooler. And so I think I lost some of my cool, but I did notice that at -9 Celsius, which again is down in that 12-15 degree range, which is pretty cold for a cooler. Now, you might not keep certain things like a really nice ice cream frozen. It has like a high sugar content, but really cheap ice cream, it's a high water content, or even ice, or even an ice pack. You will keep frozen in this cooler if it gets down to that 12, 13, 14 degree level. I was not expecting it to get that cold. And I probably should have done this first, but now let me show you how to change this to Fahrenheit. You can also show you how to change between, there's an eco mode and a max mode. I'll probably leave mine on that max setting because normally I think I'm gonna want colder than not. Nonetheless, here we go.
I'm going to show you how to change the temperature settings, but really I just noticed there's this cool little blue light here that I bet this really pops out and looks cool at nighttime. So I'm over on the passenger side of the truck now because I had a little bit less glare from the morning sun. So if you notice here, it says -6. Again, this is in Celsius. This is not telling me the set point, but what the actual temperature of my cooler is. So I have it set on low. I've noticed that the machine didn't like to adjust. It was in the low, so I had to actually raise it up until I was actually on an actual number temperature setting. If I double click the power button you saw there, I see that little eco and max light up. It only stays for a few seconds. So again, here I double click, and you'll see they're blinking. So while those are blinking, I can touch the plus sign to toggle back and forth between the eco and the max modes. While that's blinking, if I hit the power button again, then you start to notice I can toggle between that Celsius and Fahrenheit. So you see that little C or F. Once those are blinking, that's letting you know if you hit that plus button, it's going to toggle back and forth between those settings. And once you have both the eco mode and the Fahrenheit/Celsius settings set, you just leave it. It'll eventually go back and tell you what the actual temperature of the cooler is. Then I can see here, drop it all the way back down to where it's 21, and below 21 degrees Fahrenheit is the low setting, where basically the compressor is going to run until you tell it not to.
So I kind of debated buying a fridge, either the one I just got there in the front of the truck, or buying one that went down here in this lower little section underneath the bed of the truck. And the reason I decided to go with the one in the truck is, yes, if I had one back here, it'd work for things like camping, tailgating, things like that when you're outside of the truck. But obviously there's no easy pass-through from the bed into the cab of the truck. So if you wanted something cold while you were driving, or a cold drink to take out, or if you had something like medication you had to keep cool, you'd want that in the truck, in the cabin with you to be able to take out and enjoy while you were actually driving in the truck and not having to stop. So I do feel like the fridge inside the truck is the way to go. So that's the route I went, although, you know me, I'll probably end up buying the one that goes down here in the bed also. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the one I put up there in the cab. All right, so now I want to talk about capacity, how much fits in this fridge. And I know no better way to do it than to see how many pop cans will fit in it, or if you're in the South, how many soda cans will fit in it. Let's find out.
All right, let's see how many fit in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Not quite 24 cans. Still 23. Not too bad.
Probably could have fit more had I put them in just a little bit more strategic-like, but still, that's a lot of pop cans. It also comes with this little tray here that fits down in the bottom here, and it's used as like a drawer. So now that I'm back home for the day, I've had the fridge in my car about 24 hours now. Here's a quick review. Let me give you some pluses and minuses. So first, the minuses, it took me just a tad longer to put it in than what I had figured. I originally thought I'd pull it out of the box and just put it into place. It didn't quite work like that. There was just a little bit of installation, but ultimately it took under 10 minutes to get it in, so not that bad, and hopefully my little video for something you're looking at will help you actually install it yourself. That second minus now is the price. It is a little pricey. Now, you can use my channel name, Charisma, and you'll get 20% off of that. It gets it down to a little bit more reasonable price range, but again, I realize it's not for everybody, but that price actually is pretty in line with a custom fit mini fridge that you'd put anywhere in like your apartment or studio, something like that. So I think it actually makes sense and it justifies itself. Now for the positives. So the fit is really amazing. It fits in there perfect. It's very custom. It fills that little void that we all had in there anyway. And I think it really solves a problem where I couldn't imagine putting anything else in there. And I know I said this before when I had that last little container, but this is really the way to go. Get you a cold drink anytime you want. Makes road tripping quite a bit easier. Also, as you saw on my way in, it cools really fast. So it does get you from a normal outside ambient temperature down to freezing or just below in 15 minutes. And if you put it on that lowest setting, it's going to get you down close to single digits within 30-35 minutes. It was really impressive for a little mini fridge run off of a battery power of a vehicle. Also a plus, it's a gigantic capacity. I've had little fridges in my cars before. In fact, I put one in my Model Y not that long ago. This is just the biggest one I've ever seen, but also it's cool that it fits in the front of the truck. I have a Land Rover that has a cooling compartment here in my little center console, but it's tiny. I can fit 4 cans of pop in it. It's nothing like the 18-liter capacity I have in this guy. And the last 2 positives, one is it's really quiet. When it's running, you can hardly tell it's on. And the second is it actually consumes really low power, which is pretty in line with what most mini fridges are. I think the power consumption it drains is so little, it would be almost negligible. You hardly notice it. And to help with that, if you're really trying to like extend your range on a road trip, you can use that eco mode and you'll hardly even notice this is on. I think that about covers it. As always, thanks for watching. If there's another accessory I should be reviewing, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Is this too pricey for you or is it something you're considering?